Engineer, a famous German engineer, describes his experience with flying saucer technology. A declassified CIA document details a story about a famous German engineer, George Klein, describing his experience with flying saucer technology in Germany. Klein claimed the saucers were in the planning stages in Germany as early as 1941. There is no shortage of strange documents in the CIA's Freedom of Information Act FOIA electronic reading room. Many reveal the agency's efforts to keep tabs on the technological developments of other countries, especially during and after World War II. Now, one document brings up a famous German engineer named George Klein. He expressed that, though many people believe the flying saucers to be a post-war development, they were actually in the planning stage in Germany aircraft factories as early as 1941, is what he claims. The document explains how a German newspaper published an interview with Klein describing the experimental construction of flying saucers carried out by him from 1941 to 1945. He says the flying saucer reached an altitude of 12,400 meters within 3 minutes and a speed of 2,200 kilometers per hour. Klein emphasized that, in accordance with German plans, the speed of these saucers would reach 4,000 kilometers per hour. One difficulty, according to Klein, was the problem of obtaining the materials to be used for the construction of the saucers, but even this had been solved by German engineers towards the end of 1945, and construction on the object was scheduled to begin, Klein said. Now, according to Klein, by 1944, the Germans had already built 3 saucers for testing. These were the Foo Fighters. All of these American pilots were reporting at the time. Were they? The document describes the 3 discs, saying one type actually had the shape of a disc with an interior cabin and was built at the unidentified factories, which had also built the V-2 rockets. This model was 42 meters in diameter. The other model had the shape of a ring with raised sides and a spherically shaped pilot's cabin placed on the outside in the center of the ring, and both models had the ability to take off vertically and to land in an extremely restricted area, just like helicopters do. The engineers were ordered to destroy these saucers, including all of the plans for them. The engineers at the Mite factories in Breslau, however, were not warned in sufficient time of the Soviet approach, and the Soviets therefore succeeded in seizing their materials. Plans, as well as specialized personnel, were immediately sent directly to the Soviet Union under heavy guard. Aviation writer Nick Cook, in one of many of his investigative topics, and in 2002 he came to the conclusion that the Nazis had experimented, quote, with a form of science the rest of the world had never remotely considered, end quote, and which continues to be suppressed today. So it makes you wonder what the United States received, given that through Operation Paperclip, a number of top German scientists were transported to the United States. According to longtime UFO researcher Richard Dolan, quote, Italian researcher Renato Vesco argued that Germans had developed anti-gravity. Disc-shaped and tubular craft were built and tested near the end of the Second World War, which he argued was the proper explanation of Foo Fighters. These concepts, he maintained, were developed by the Americans and Soviets and led directly to flying saucers, end quote. Dr. David Clark is an investigative journalist, reader, and lecturer at Sheffield Hallam University in England. He was also the curator of the National Archives UFO project from 2008 to 2013 and regularly comments on national and international media on UFOs. Dr. Clark told Daily Mail, even though they have been partly censored, they cannot cancel the fact that the UK military were interested in capturing UFO technology, or what they coyly refer to as novel weapon technology, and the files reveal that they were desperate to capture this technology wherever it came from before the Russians or the Chinese got hold of it first. Although this was in 1997, Russia was still regarded as an undefeated enemy with a weapons program regarded as a threat to the West, he said. So perhaps this reverse engineering started long ago, question mark? Apollo 13 astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell once told the world that yes, there have been crashed craft and bodies recovered. And he's seen making these statements in the Thrive documentary. Eric W. Davis, a renowned astrophysicist who worked with the Pentagon UFO program, stated that he gave a classified briefing to a Defense Department agency as recently as March 2020 about retrievals from off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. Off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. Christopher Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary for Intelligence from 1997 to 2002, has confirmed that he was present during Davis's testimony. He himself has been quite outspoken about the phenomenon over the past few years. So this is why many people in the field have been asking whether or not some of these strange objects are ours or theirs, quote unquote. There seems to be multiple possibilities based on my research, he said. Humanity has a history of believing one thing and then having a paradigm-busting moment that shatters that belief. Take, for example, prominent physicist Lord Kelvin, who stated in the year 1900 that, quote, "There's nothing new to be discovered in physics now. All that remains is more and more precise measurement," end quote. It was not long after this statement that when Einstein published his paper on special relativity. Einstein's theories challenged the accepted framework of knowledge at the time and forced the scientific community to open up an alternative view of reality. Will the UFO phenomenon be the same? Or will it be used like many other major global issues for purposes and responses that seem to benefit the rich, wealthy, and powerful? Will the perception of the phenomenon given to us by the mainstream be accurate? Can we continue to keep relying on mainstream media and government to share truth with the citizenry? So there's a reason why so many people have lost trust in these institutions. This is by the article Famous German Engineer Describes Experience with Flying Saucer Technology, published on The Pulse, and it's here under Creative Commons. This was from Arjun Walia, The Pulse, on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.